Well, hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about behavior change part two. We will discuss the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. We're going to talk about the social ecological model, which you will watch a movie, Killer at Large, that used that model to explain physical activity behavior and obesity in the United States of America. And then we're going to talk about the health belief model and how it applies to people making decisions about becoming more physically active, engaging in healthy eating practices or not. So let's get started. First off, the trans-theoretical model of behavior change talks about people will make a change when they are ready for a change. Kind of makes sense. So this model, as all models do, lets you know how different variables relate to each other, describes different stages of the process of change, and then also discusses what it takes for an individual to move from one stage of change to the next stage, and what kinds of things as a health coach, as an exercise fitness professional, we can do to assist our clients in moving on towards the process of change. So let's get right to it. The trans-theoretical model, also known as TTM, is also known as the stages of change motivational readiness model. So it has different names, but it's synonymous terms, okay? It incorporates what we discussed already about behavioral process, so borrowing from the learning theories, and also cognitive process, the thought, what's going on in the head before you make a decision, the things that you say to yourself when nobody's listening, okay? So it discusses both of those, what you can see, which is behavior that you can observe and measure, and also the thought process that may trigger or may encourage behaviors to happen or not happen. So it uses both of those theories. It helps individuals become aware and understand what their choices are of making a decision, choosing to make a decision or not make a decision. So, and how based on that, we can help to see what the cost of not engaging in activity may be versus the benefit of engaging in the activity. And so that may help an individual choose. So we'll get into that, and then how we can use what we understand how those concepts relate to each other in order to assist our clients to go ahead and make a change in life. It does, like I said, incorporates theories of behavior change, and incorporates learning theories, cognitive theories, so to express how variables are related to each other. And then with that, understand what it takes for an individual, depending on what stage of change they're in, to actually move on towards the process, which the goal being you acquire a new behavior, you practice it for a while, and until it becomes incorporated into your knowledge base, and then it becomes what we call a habit. And then how long does that process take? So we'll discuss how long does it actually take for a new behavior to actually become something that you do regularly that takes no mind. That's what habits are. You don't have to think about it. They're just cued in by your environment, and they take a lot of don't take a lot of brain power to engage in them. And once we can get to that stage with behaviors, that's when we can say that they have reached that maintenance stage. So let's take a look a little bit more deeper into that. This is viewed as the dominant model for effective behavior change, and explains why it is that sometimes individuals are successful in acquiring behavior change and sometimes others struggle with a lot of starting and stopping, beginning and not completely going through the process. As we might maybe identify individuals that try to quit smoking, and individuals that join gyms and at the beginning of the year because of the New Year's resolutions, and for some reason they do this every year, and yet they don't seem to be successful. And so hopefully with this model you can begin to understand why that may be. it is very helpful for us to understand, especially physical activity. And what if you're someone that participates in group activities, like you go to the fitness centers or exercise where people are around, you've probably noticed different patterns of exercise behavior from individuals. Some that are very consistent, never miss a day, others that may become every once in a while and frequently, or some that come for like 1 month or two, and then you never see them again until the next year. And so this might help you explain that, but also if you're working with some clients that are struggling through this, how to help them become consistent and steady until they reach that maintenance stage. So here's a model that can help us understand this process. So at the bottom of the pyramid is that a different stage. And we're going to talk about 5 different stages of change. So that is the foundation. And depending where somebody is, they are going to need more or less of one of these 2 techniques, the decisional balance and self-efficacy. So decisional balance is, for example, you made a decision right now that you were going to watch this video and watch this lecture. Maybe you debated with yourself, you know what, I can just go through the PowerPoints. I don't really need to listen to that boring lecture with Dr. Valdez. I'm just going to not do it. But if you're here listening to me, the decision to listen won out. So somehow what you did, maybe very quickly or without really thinking about it, is that you had a pros and cons list. All of the benefits of listening to my lecture, and maybe I'll say things that you need for your exam, versus the time waster that this could be, having to listen to me where you could be doing something more fun or exciting. So because you're here, what won out was the decision to listen to the lecture. And so we go through this process in our daily lives all the time. For things that are not so too complicated, it may be a very quick decision, like, am I going to have a bagel or I'm going to have a fruit? You may make this decision very quickly. But something that is, for example, where am I going to go to college? Maybe that took you months. Maybe you had to talk to a lot of people. Maybe you had to really write things down, the pros and cons of it, different campuses and universities. And so that's sort of a process that we all go through when we're going to make decisions. And so that's the decisional balance. So you will choose, this decisional balance lets us know that you will choose to do the activity if the benefits of engaging in the activity and the risk of engaging in activity are less than the risk or the benefits of not engaging in the activity. So that's how we make our choices. So it could be in our heads, or it could be a more formal process where you actually write everything down and look at the what outweighs what. Okay, so this is how we make decisions in life. Again, it can be very quickly, or it can be more intensive, but it is how we make a choice to do one thing or the other. And sometimes they're more subconscious, but it's still going on. So decisional balance is a process of change, right? So if we choose the things that in the risk and the benefits are better than not choosing to do something. So the next process is self-efficacy. And self-efficacy, not to be confused with self-esteem. Self-esteem is your general belief about who you are and how valuable you are in life. That's different from self-efficacy. Efficacy is how successful you think you would be at engaging in a particular task or skill. You will engage in a particular task or skill if you believe that you can be successful. As human beings, we avoid things that we are not good at and choose things that we believe we can succeed in. So self-efficacy is crucial to the process of behavior change. So once you believe you can succeed, just like little engine that could, once you believe that you could succeed, you're more likely to engage in the activity. And so self-efficacy is extremely important. What we find with individuals that are not physically active is that they have a history of not having been successful in physical activity. Was it during PE class at some point in their lives, where someone made fun of them for doing something a certain way, or they had to run around the field and maybe they were the last kid to show up because maybe they were larger size and it's not so easy to do endurance work the larger you are. And so they were embarrassed at some point, or they just felt like they were not good at it. And maybe they've tried again and gone to the gym and tried to do too much too soon, too fast, and failed again. And so we tend to avoid those experiences. It can happen, and maybe it happened to you in academics. Perhaps you chose this field because maybe other fields, other types of courses you were not so good at. Maybe you weren't so great at, most of us in the biological sciences, math was not our favorite thing. We did it, but it wasn't our favorite thing. So maybe something happened then. And so that guides our decisions. And so that's self-efficacy. We enjoy, want to participate in experiences that lead to success, that we feel we can be successful at. So part of the process of helping people through change is to build their self-efficacy when it comes to being successful with exercise. And so what we talked about in skill progression and how that's key to having success is very important here. So if you design a plan that is too rigorous, too intense, too complex for the person you're working with, they may get frustrated, they may feel like they look silly and they can't do it. And then this is where self-efficacy decreases, and then they may choose not to engage in that again. Because again, we don't like to do things we're not good at. So we want to remember this, program our clients, whatever you're going to, patients, participants, for success in your head. How can you build it up so that they're not going to fail? Think again about the example of a kid learning how to, a toddler learning how to walk, and how parents and guardians and caregivers make sure that failure is not an option. And that's key here, especially at the learning stage when we're learning to do something new. So if we can get the decisional balance and self-efficacy together to work, then we can guide our individuals through the tip of the pyramid, which is the process of change. All right, so this model hopefully will help you remember. This is what the trans-theoretical model relies on. It expresses the things that need to happen to get to the process at the tip of, the pyramid where change has occurred. Okay, so let's get into the details and the basics of concepts of TTM. Okay, so again, people progress through 5 stages of change, and there's not a particular timeline, and it's going to vary based on the individual. Some people may progress faster, some people may take longer at one stage, need more practice, and it's going to vary. So we're not going to be set on how long should we spend on each stage. So there's 5 stages, and people are going to move back and forth along the stage of the continuum. So it may be that you progress, and then something happens in life, and then you have to take a break, and then you have to start over again. There could be a lot of start and stops, and that's to be expected, and something that we want to make sure our clients understand. And different cognitive and behavioral processes or strategies are going to be needed depending on the individual. Some individuals love motivational videos and quotes and movies, and others that's just not their thing. They're motivated by progress, by seeing figures and charts and data, and being very objective. And so maybe that's what motivates them. They need to write down everything that's happening every day to see the progress, and that's what gets them. So different techniques will work with different individuals. So part of the process of working with someone, and we'll talk more, we'll learn more towards the end when we talk about building rapport and communication, comes with learning what is going to be the best way to motivate someone through that process. So different strategies are going to be needed, and so we'll try to discover that in our interviewing with our clients. Any decisional balance is going to require that we look at the pros and cons. So if someone is at the stage where we've got they're not even ready, maybe you've met some of these people there, you talk to them about, let's suppose, quitting smoking. Maybe you have somebody in your family, and just the bare mention that they see you talking about smoking, they're like, can't hear you, sorry, nope. Like they have, at that point, they have waited out, and the stress of making a change is completely outweighs the reasons to make a change. So the only way to get to those individuals, if they're ready to listen at a moment, is to see how we can let them know what would be the benefits of quitting smoking, what all the risks of continuing to smoke, and maybe perhaps they could make a change. So that's that's part of that. So we're going to talk about how much is needed depending on what stage of change the individual is in. We're going to have to do this cost benefit analysis. So someone that is ready for a change and this maybe not quite certain, writing a list of all the reasons why making a change would be helpful, how good you're going to feel, reduce healthcare costs, being able to travel and go up a flight of stairs without being out of breath, being around for your grandkids, things like that. And then we also try to understand what is keeping them from making a change. So this is key, because even those that have, the ones that are saying that you try to talk to them about quitting smoking and they don't want to listen to you, there's a reason why they're in that stage. Something might have happened. Sometimes the reason is that they are the ones that every New Year's for the last 10 years, they have had a resolution to stop smoking. They throw away all cigarettes. They try to quit, and they are not successful. They fail. And so we get tired of failing. And so at one point you rationalize with yourself, say, you know what, smoking is not so bad. My grandmother lived to 98 and smoked. I'm not going to be affected by it. What's the point? You got to die. You got to die of something. I'll just die of lung cancer. All right. So they just rationalized it away. And so knowing that would be part of the process of saying, well, you know, dying of lung cancer may not be the thing that you want to do. And then there's a better way. If you stop smoking, food is going to taste better. You're going to smell things better. You're going to be able to do more things in life. You're going to save all this money from cigarettes. Just sometimes for some folks that are very data driven, if you just show them how much money cigarettes cost, you're smoking 3 packs a day. Well, think about if you don't, 3 packs a day, whatever, I don't even know how much they cost anymore, but let's say you're saving $300-400 a month. What can you do with $300-400 a month? Where can you go? What could you get, you know? And so maybe that would be the motivator. But so that is the process. So trying to understand the reasons why they're not even want to listen, right? Because there's always a reason. And so getting into the root of that may be helpful. So yeah, trying to understand what is keeping them from making a change. And so that we can build self-efficacy. Believe, so maybe we can say, hey, the reason you failed is because you decided you were going to join the gym and do 2 hours of physical activity every day at a high level. And when you've been before that, you were not doing anything. Of course, you got injured and you have low back pain and your knees started to hurt. It was too much, too soon, too fast. It wasn't anything like you. You just did too much. You need to start at a lower intensity, less time, maybe not every day, and then you can be successful. So it comes, again, that's a little bit of cognitive restructuring, which we'll talk about, changing the way you think about something. Perception is reality, and then getting individuals to decide to make a change. Rewards, as we talked about in the learning lecture, rewards, again, are going to be very important as well. And in my example of smoking, well, think about how much money you spend on cigarettes, or somebody who's taking high blood pressure medication, if they're taking medications for diabetes, think about all the costs of that. How much money would you save? What can you do with that extra savings? Or how much money you're spending on that Starbucks or Panera or whatever, eating out? Think about all the money and what you could do with that. So in many ways, again, this is going to be very specific to the individual, but it's finding out what those rewards may be. So here's just a diagram of the stages, and I'm going to talk about the stages over and over again. I am expecting that you remember the stages name and that you remember what kinds, what they look like, what an individual who's in the pre-contemplation stage, how they may react when you talk about physical activity and losing weight, and then what kinds of techniques may help them to move to the next stage. So I am expecting that you are able to do that. So the 5 stages are pre-contemplation. So not even, contemplation is thinking, right? So here, these individuals are not even thinking about it. They don't even want to talk about it. You talk to them and they're like, I can't hear you. Okay. So those are pre-contemplation individuals. Contemplation, they may say, oh, what are you saying over there? Oh, okay. But they're maybe not quite ready to do it right now, but they're curious. Okay. They're at least showing some curiosity and interest in the contemplation stage. Preparation, these people are the people that we tend to see at the gym many times. They show up Monday, Tuesday, and then you don't see them for a week, and then they show up a couple of days again, and so they start and stop a lot. So they're kind of always, and they just can't seem to get into a rhythm where they're consistent. So preparation people, maybe the people that I was, they clean out the fridge, they throw away their clothes that is big, and try to, they do things, but they're not quite at a consistent level. So these folks are the people that may come to hire you are very likely to be in the preparation stages. So hopefully you can recognize it, because they'll talk about, I try to start exercise, and then something happens, and then then I don't go anymore. So and so these are the folks that we're more likely to be hired by. The action individuals are doing it. They're consistent. They're meeting the recommendations, but it just hasn't been long enough. So maybe they've been doing that for 2 months. They've been doing it for a little while. We're going to talk about it being a habit when we get to 6 months, maintenance. Could it happen sooner? It can. The average for a habit is 60 days, not 21 days, 60 days. But to be sure that it has ingrained into our repertoire of behaviors where that doesn't take as much mental energy. So if you scan somebody doing something that's a habit, you can scan the brain versus something that is a new skill. A new skill lights up the brain. Okay, something that is routine, like brushing your teeth, nothing, right? Because it's just like, you don't have to think about it, or like walking, right? Or something you've done all your life. There doesn't take up as much space. So new behaviors do, and this is why it takes some time for them to become automatic response, okay? So that's really important. So we want to let them understand that in order for us to be in maintenance, it's not just 21 days. We're going to look at a 6-month stretch. And it's hopefully you can connect the dots that this goes well with our goals for weight loss. So 6 months, 10%, it all kind of ties in together, and that's perfect. So these are the 5 stages. Now, it doesn't mean, as I said earlier, that if you get to the maintenance stage that you're never going to relapse. No, life happens. Marriages, death, moving, new job, a baby. And there's some time where something happens and you take a break. The steps here to avoid a prolonged relapse is to have a relapse prevention program. So if something happens, what are you going to do to get yourself back on? All right. So for me, because I've always taught group exercise, I've always had to get back because I have to go back to teaching. So that's worked for me. So everybody has to find what it is that will help them get out of the not doing. And that's part of what we want to plan for as well. What are we going to do to prevent relapse? Okay, so we're going to get more into the deep with this. So no worries. So I like this. Change is not an event, it's a process. And because it's a process, it can go back and forth. Okay. So eventually, once something has been a habit for a long time, again, if more is, you may have an easier time, and maybe not as relapse prevention won't be as severe. But if, again, maybe you have a major injury, whatever, and then you have to get back. So think of it like that way. So if something happens, like now, we're going through holidays. It's a time where people relapse. But if, as a health coach, we would have built it into their schedule. We know that let's suppose for some people maybe Halloween. As soon as Halloween comes around, there goes my workout, there goes my eating habits. So maybe we're knowing that in advance. We start working with the client. We plan for it. Okay, so these days this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna allow for this, and so it's already built in. So you have the Thanksgiving holiday. So maybe this week we're only gonna exercise or have a shorter workout, and then instead of doing our regular workout, we're just gonna try to take a 20-minute walk after dinner. And we're going to plan for it, because psychologically, when you plan for something, it doesn't feel like you relapse, right? So you plan for it. And really, even with athletes, we have what we call active recovery after a competition season. So we can even call it that. So you can do anything else but your regular workout. So if you're usually lifting weights and doing cardiovascular exercise in the gym. And now instead of that, I want you to ride your bike, rollerblade, go for a hike, something else, something different. Maybe don't do it as long, do it shorter. So we're going to build it into their training year. And so all of these times that we know are high risk situations, like during the holidays, maybe during spring break or vacation, we're going to build it all into a year. And so when the time comes, they know that this is a time when they're allowed to maybe eat a little bit more or exercise a little bit less, because it's part of their active recovery. Okay, so it's all cognitive labeling, what we label things. So once again, to remind you, the stages of change is a process, not an event. Five stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. It is a process of change, not an event. Self-efficacy is needed. Again, self-efficacy is you believe that you can succeed at a particular skill or task. And so we're going to build that. We're going to talk about how we build self-efficacy. Think back about the skill progression activity is about achieving small successes, making sure that the activities that we lay out for them are something they can do successfully, and that they can at least, again, feel like they can see the process and where they get to achieving the long-term goal. So it still needs decisional balance to make a decision. Depending on what stage they're in, they're going to need more or less of these two. Okay. So pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. Hopefully you remember them. So let's look at pre-contemplation first. And when this first came out, this movie, Austin Powers, and I saw this character, Fat Bastard, that was his name. I'm not being insulting, that's what he was called. He was happy with himself. He didn't have any need to change at all. So not even considering change. In this case, we were talking about physical activity. What we're seeing is that they're completely sedentary. They have no activity, they're not meeting 30 minutes, 3 times a week, moderate, right? So that's not happening at all. And when you try to talk to them about engaging in physical activity, they're like, they don't want to listen to you. Blah, no, it doesn't work. I've tried it. No need for that. It's too much work. So, and they have no intention to even talk about it or even start within 6 months. So not at all. Some examples of once you say, well, when will I ever meet with someone if it's not a friend? If it's not a friend or family member, when would I have in my practice someone who's here, or how would I see them? Well, sometimes, let me give you this example. It has happened to me when I was early on in my career as a trainer. Let's give you this example. Ed comes in to see you to get his money back for the 12 sessions his wife bought for him so he could lose weight. And again, this has happened to me several times where I decided I was not going to sell sessions for Christmas or birthdays to someone who was going to be a surprise. So I actually, when someone tried to buy these kinds of packages for their loved ones, I made sure that they had talked to the person, and this is something that the person wanted. All right, so you learn, eventually. But so this husband had bought 12 sessions for his wife, and this wife had bought 12 sessions for her husband because she thought he needed to lose weight. So of course he calls you because it's a lot of money, 12 sessions, because he wants his money back. So and then we say, well, come in. This is what I used to do. Come in and let's talk about it, and then let's see what's going on. So, and he tells you exercise is a waste of time. He's healthy and feels awesome and has no desire to exercise. So you probably think, oh, well, what are you gonna do there? So you could say, okay, fine, Ed, here's your money back. Or you could say, well, why do you feel that way? What happened? Have you tried to exercise before? And so you might get some more information here. Well, yes, I've tried to exercise. I tried it, and I lose a little bit of weight, and then I get hurt, I get injured. And so you could do a little bit of that, and maybe if you can build rapport and they feel they can trust you, maybe, so just maybe, he may decide that he'll give the 12 sessions a try, right? But don't bet on that, okay? So that might be the lost cause. But that's how you can talk to someone that may be like Ed. And I'm gonna pause here a minute because I had some, let me give it a pause. Okay, I had some internet issues, so hopefully everything's okay now. So that would be an example of pre-contemplation that you may meet, may come to see you, okay? What you can do, again, just as I discussed with Ed, you can again talk about all the benefits of exercise, although talk about his individual's previous attempts at trying to exercise, if any, and then see if you can understand what may have gone wrong in the past, and that could be helpful. But again, the key identifier here is that they may believe there is no reason to change, and they may deny there's a reason to change. So that's very typical. Another one is they don't want to listen if it's a family member or a friend. When you bring up the topic, they may walk away, or they hear you talking about it. Again, same, they just cannot listen to you. But the key thing to remember here, individuals are in the pre-contemplation stage. They got here not because of anything else, but the fact that they have probably failed many, many, many times. They might have been embarrassed at some point, and people get tired of not being successful and they just give up. So with empathy, when you work with individuals that you feel, again, many times it could be people that are close to you, be patient and try to understand that it's because it's probably more than likely that they failed at this in the past. And so now they just don't want to try anymore. So in order, especially if it's somebody that you care about, multiple attempts may be required to succeed. So you can lead by example. You can try to be gentle and talk to them about all of the benefits, and maybe talk about, if you can get to it, what things have failed in the past and how things could be different based on how they can do it now. More than likely, again, it's because they did too much, too soon, too fast. Remember that. That's usually what, and now you're going to see it very soon now in January when you try to go to the gym. People that do too much, too soon, too fast. They've been sedentary and now they decide to start off with a boot camp class, you know, you're going to crawl out of here kind of workout. And for beginners, that is nail in the coffin. It's not going to work. Okay, so, but again, it may be that the person is just not ready for change. Not yet. The cost, the decisional balance is tipping in the favor of not doing it. So that's the only thing that could help is, again, counseling, you know, about things that they could achieve, but be patient. Maybe it's not the time. So the next stage is contemplation. And here again, is people are like curious. I love this picture of this German Shepherd. They're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, yeah. And they maybe now have committed themselves to, yeah, I'm going to do it someday. Maybe not today, but someday I'm going to maybe do it. Maybe in 6 months. I'm kind of really busy right now. I don't have time right now. I got this and that. And right now it's not a good time. But, you know, in 6 months, it'll be a good time later on. Okay, so that's typical of contemplation. They're curious. They'll listen to you talk about what they need to do, how to eat healthier, how to shop for food, but not right now. Right now, they're not going to do it. So, and a typical example here, you know, is you may get either text messages or emails or something on social media when you post asking you, you know, she calls you to find out a little more about personal training at the studio. So there's curiosity. So maybe she could say something like she found out she has high blood pressure, she's a little overweight, but you know, she's kind of busy right now, too many things going on. But yeah, she's gonna call you back in a little bit. She'll get back to you. So that's typical example of contemplation. What we can do, individuals here do believe that the reasons for being inactive outweigh the benefits of initiating a lifestyle change. But again, it's about, they still think there's other things that take priority in life, right? So if you have someone close to you or someone that comes to see you, this would be actually drawing it out, because maybe they think from past experience that exercise is going to take 2 hours a day, every day, right? and who has time for that, right? Or they have to work at a high intensity, which, if you're being sedentary, those things like, oh, I don't want to get sick unless I can. So it may be preconceived notions that are not realistic of what is required. And so, and maybe weight loss goals that are also not realistic. Like they may think that they have to eat oatmeal for breakfast, crumbs, salad for lunch, and it's just a lot. I can't cut my diet like that right now, right? So maybe very extreme examples of what it will take, and so making things more realistic could be helpful with these individuals that are in contemplation. Self-efficacy, again, is the thing here that we want to build. So it's starting making sure that we start with short-term goals that lead to long-term goals, achieving success being the biggest way to motivate someone through the process of change. So if you can get someone in contemplation, say, hey, why don't you just try at work? When you get to work, just for a bit, just instead of parking where you usually park, try to park a little further. And then, if you work on the second floor in your building, why don't you try going to the bathroom on the first floor? Just try that and see what happens. Just try that for a while. So small commitments. And if they're successful with that, if that becomes something that they incorporate into their habits, then they may believe that they can do something a little bit more challenging. So self-efficacy is still part of it. And you can, again, just like that, you can ask them to set those kinds of short-term goals. Maybe do that. Maybe, pack your lunch and instead of buying lunch, something simple like that. Or maybe pack your lunch twice a week and then eat out with your friends, your coworkers the other days. And so finding small things that they can do and then build from there. More than likely, again, contemplation are not folks that may come to start with you. Maybe it's folks that just call to ask for information, but it could happen. Maybe they decide they're going to start even when they're in contemplation and just go for it. So the next stage, and this is the one that we're most likely to encounter, are folks that are in preparation stage. When you say next Monday I will exercise, the day arrives and you do not do it and say next Monday I will. Okay, so they're getting ready to do it and making goals. They're taking steps all the time. Maybe they do this every weekend on Sunday, and they buy the right food, but then it rots in the fridge, those salad bags, because they don't get to it. So they're trying to prepare all the time, but they're not quite getting started or continuing. They're taking some steps, but it's just it's a little bit overwhelming. They're not quite there yet. They may at this point say, you know what, I need help, and they may have desire to hire you. So it is common to find people in preparation that feel like all they need is just to pay someone to help them. Okay. They may be doing some physical activity, but in an irregular pattern. So it's a lot of start and go. I mean, they may even have a joint membership, and they don't quit it because they say, oh, if I quit, then I really won't do it. So they just keep paying this. Health clubs rely on this, keep paying it just because eventually I'll go. And maybe they go, but they go maybe once a month for a couple of days, and then they don't come back. And so it's very sporadic, not irregular. That's classic of preparation. And so, and I'll bring you back to the examples. And now this is, take a picture in December, mid-December, of what the gym looks like, and then take a picture in January, towards maybe even early February, when you can't find space. So it is very typical. And so a typical example, Jennifer gets very excited about starting on her diet and exercise program. She does it for a few weeks, and then she stopped for another few weeks. Yeah, this is very common. Now, I think we had one example on our clients when we're looking at pre-activity screening. We had an example of someone that was like this, and the younger mom that started Zumba, but then she just was not regular. And so this is a very common thing for many people, that they just can't get into a consistent pattern. And so they're just trying, the activity is not fitting into their routine. So we have to find other ways of making sure it's just, we cue it for success, that it happens and is easy. So that's part of the things we should do when working with someone in preparation. All right, so some of the typical things, again, for preparation to remind themselves, they may clean the fridge every week, buy new foods, and then they have to do it again because the food gets bad. So there's some observable efforts to begin, but irregular exercise is the hallmark. So again, they go for a bit, maybe a week or two, maybe less, and then they don't do it again. And it takes some time off so that you just keep starting and stopping. And some other things they could be reading, buying books and nutrition and exercise and setting appointments, maybe canceling them. So the way to get them through is to, again, more than likely the goals are too lofty. And they're trying to do too much when they start. So again, because they used to do 2 hours a day back in the day, they could think that they need to continue to do that. And so it's too much to do, and then they don't succeed. So the goal here is to come up with SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed. And so that's really the way they're going to improve their self-efficacy and their belief that they can this time succeed in keeping a regular exercise program and eating habits. So, and yeah, many times they just don't know if they're doing it right. And more than likely, they're not quite doing it right. This is why they're not succeeding. Okay, so they need help. But things like monitoring their gains, finding some ways to reinforce themselves when they achieve small goals. And that's the way to continue on to move on to the next stage. Okay, action. So action stage, now they are doing it right. They're doing just the right amount where they can be consistent, where they're not getting too much DOMS, muscle soreness or injuries. They are engaging, for example, meeting their 150 minutes, but they haven't quite reached the 6-month mark. So they may be doing 2 to 3 months, you know, not enough yet to say that they have, that it is a habit, that they are in maintenance, okay? Some examples of someone, Lisa has been exercising 5 days a week for 45 minutes at a moderate to vigorous intensity for the last 2 months. She's determined that this time she will achieve her goals. What could happen here if there is no variety, if we're not periodizing the training, if we're always doing the same thing the same way every day, think about it. If you were always doing the same thing the same way every day, boredom could set in, right? And so what's needed for action is that the workouts are varied every 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, so not the same thing all the time. And this is where we're helpful. So try to make sure that we're using progressive overload and maybe cross-training, doing different things to make sure that they stay motivated. So you know that it's time to make a change when you're not looking forward to your workouts, you know, or you're just not making progress. You know, you're still running. Let's say you're a runner and you're doing the same distance at the same speed, and your heart rate is, you know, maybe even going up and not going down. So those are times that we want to make changes. So action stages are most at risk for relapse. Action, because of boredom and because the behavior is not a habit yet. So they're the most at risk. And so I have it here. Action has the greatest risk of relapse. So we want to make sure that we provide instruction on how to avoid injury, how to avoid boredom, exercise burnout. Music playlists are very helpful here. Motivational videos maybe as well. And again, varying the workouts. Varying the workouts, key. Tying them into other people that are like them. Social support is so helpful and motivating, especially if you're working with older adults. Social support and group training is one of the reasons older adults will continue to engage. So very, very important to connect to other people, because you know that if you decide not to show up, somebody's going to miss you. So that's also key. Talk about high-risk situations that might lead to relapse and plan ahead. Again, we do this with athletes. It's a training year, not training weeks. So think ahead. Think about what their year is going to look like. Do they have a cruise, a wedding, or a big party? You know, what's going on in their lives for the next year, and plan around it for times when they may not have as much time to work out. So think of your clients as we would with athletes, where we plan for competitions and we have different varying schedules of exercise. Really important. Then now we get to maintenance. Lastly, now we know maintenance, we're going to need at least 6 months of doing it regularly with no relapses, consistent activity. And it's just now become part of what you do, just like everything else, just getting ready for work, right? Getting ready for school, walking the dog, whatever. It's just routine. Doesn't take a lot of mental energy. You're engaging in meeting the guidelines, 150 minutes or maybe more, maybe doing strength training as well, meeting all the recommendations. And what happens when you're in maintenance, it becomes easy. It's not a struggle anymore. It's just, you don't have to think about it. It's just part of your routine. And that's one of the markers of maintenance. It is part of my life now. I'm staying on track, not even a risk. Should you, again, it's after 6 months of regular activity, you still need some coping strategies. You still could get bored. You still need some goal setting. Everyone needs goals. There's always something else you can accomplish. So if you're feeling a little unmotivated in your workouts, time to set some kind of goal, whatever it may be, right? Some kind of goals about maybe some certain PRs in the weight room, maybe some improving your times on your runs, finding something to motivate, entering a race or entering a tournament, weightlifting competition, bodybuilding competition, whatever, but maybe competing with friends using your trackers, but we all need that, right? So you need to find a new goal if you achieve your previous goals. Even maintenance stuff need that. And you still could relapse, so you still need a plan in place, and we still want to communicate with these, and maybe you still continue to train them. I had, clients, maybe if they hire you and you help them succeed, and although they may not need you anymore as far as knowing what to do, they need you there as you are their relapse prevention person that they pay, because they know they pay you, and if they don't show up, it's going to cost them, and it's your time. And so for some folks, we are the relapse prevention, and that's great for our financial status, so it's okay. Job security, but we can, if we have reached maintenance and they're going to do it on their own, we still want to do emails, call them every once in a while, make sure we interact in social media, make sure they're in contact with us in case they need us to come back to. And always help them plan for high-risk situations. And this is also true for us. We have those high-risk situations coming up now. We went through Thanksgiving. Now the holidays are very stressful. Anytime you have stress, we tend to consider that a high-risk environment. Plan ahead. Plan of what may happen. Go through the process of what kinds of activities you're going to engage in. Go back and look at your benefits, cost analysis, reassess the benefits and reassess goals, set new goals. You can still get boredom. It can still happen. Again, this is why you need new continuous improvement as humans, and continuous improvement. Even if you get older like me, my goal is to continuously stay the same. It's not happening. Every time I wake up, I know I'm a little bit older, so you still need to have goals set in mind of what you want to accomplish. That's what keeps us sharp. So again, examples for someone in maintenance is, and this is runners, they will enter races every so often, every few months. And so there's always a new race to be passionate about. So Jenna, for example, runs every morning, 6 to 10 miles. She enters races all the time. She has a medal board where she keeps all her medals and all of that. And she has friends that she competes with and she runs with. And it is part of her life now, something that is a hobby that she just can't even think about not doing it. So she has now been running for 5 years. And so, because it's just part of my life, I enter competitions, 3-4 competitions a year. And I have, here at Disney, we have the ones at Disney or the ones that are more fun, and you get nice t-shirts. And other activities do the same. But if you're into lifting weights, there's weightlifting competitions, recreational leagues, that you can say if you're a CrossFit fan, you can become part of CrossFit. So it's a way of being active, but always having goals in mind. Keep making new goals. That's how you stay in maintenance. All right. Okay. So now how to figure it out, how to determine an individual stage for physical activity. Here are just some, if you're confused, even when meeting with someone, maybe not quite clear what stage they're in. 5 questions you can ask. Are you currently accumulating at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity each week? So if the answer is yes, if they're accumulating that, they're either, think about it, in order to get 150 minutes, only 2 stages, maintenance and action. Maintenance, you've been doing it for 6 months, right? Action, not quite. The other two, preparation, contemplation, and pre-contemplation, are not getting those numbers at all. So it could be, in this stage, it could be any of the other. If the answer is no, it could be any of the other three. Question 2 will let you decipher between maintenance or action. Have you been regularly physically active over the last 6 months? If they say yes, then maintenance. They're in maintenance stage. All right. So if they say no, they've answered no to the first two. Now we're trying to decipher if there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, or preparation. So are you doing any physical activity? If the answer is no, it's like, what do you, don't even mention that word. That might give you right away that is pre-contemplation. If they say sometimes, but you know, I do it, I start and stop, preparation. If they say I'm thinking about it, I haven't, you know, maybe in 6 months, that would be contemplation, right? So the next question gives you a little more detail. Have you made any actions or concrete plans in increasing your physical activity? Purchase a membership, you know, Peloton, whatever, or hire a trainer. If the answer is yes, they may be in preparation, right? If they say not yet in 6 months, that would be contemplation. If they say no, what? No, of course not. Pre-contemplation. Do you plan on becoming more physically active over the next 6 months? It's like, heck no. Pre-contemplation. 6 months, yeah, probably in 6 months I'll be ready. I gotta do it. I just don't have enough time right now. Contemplation. If I'm ready. I keep trying to start, but you know, it's just like for some reason I start and then I can't continue on. Preparation. Okay. If you're still confused here, I have a little decision log here. You can put whatever here, but I put 150 minutes of physical activity per week. If the answer is yes, I'm doing that. Is either we want to know if it's less than 6 months or more than 6 months. If it's less than 6 months, is action. All right. If it's more than 6 months, it's maintenance. If they're doing no activity, if the answer is no, I'm not meeting the 150. They say no PA, right? And no plans is either contemplation or pre-contemplation, right? If they say maybe in 6 months, it's contemplation. If they say not at all, that would be pre-contemplation. If they're doing some activity, but it's just not consistent, that would be preparation. All right, so this should help you to remember. I do expect you to understand the stages. If I give you an example, like I did here in this PowerPoint, you should know, identify what stage that person may be in. That's really important because that will inform us of what kinds of encouragement they're going to need. Okay, so how can we help people move through the stages of change? Okay, so self-efficacy is key. All right, so this is how we do. And again, if you go back to think about the skill progression, building up complex skills into more achievable skills that an individual can succeed on. This theory comes from Albert Bandura, social psychologist. Social psychology added to behavior psychology to say that not only do we learn by the consequences of the behaviors that we engage in ourselves, but we learn by watching others. Right? So we're social beings. So we're influenced by the consequences that happen to other people around us. So Bandura states that to increase self-efficacy, we need to know what we have accomplished. So when you achieve success, we want to be aware of that. So we want some way of tracking that. This is why these trackers sometimes are effective. Maybe they're not quite as accurate, but the fact that we see progress over time is helpful. We learn by vicarious experience means that we learn by the experiences of others. So role models, and the advertising uses this all the time. Look at Alice. Alice is just like you. Alice lost 100 pounds. Alice did it and it was easy, and you can do it too. Right? So we learn by watching others succeed. So tying in people to others like them, that they can achieve the success that they want to achieve, helps them. We also can be encouraged. So verbal persuasion, coaching, reinforcing words. We are very much likely to engage in activity that way. It could be as a reinforcer, right? So we're adding something they enjoy. Oh my gosh, you did such a good job. Or we can be nagging, right? That also could be, but we want to try not to do adding negatives into the environment as much as we can. We don't want to do that. We want to push people into doing something by nagging them. But that can also lead to that. And tying in people to how things make you feel. So the physiological or affective states, because from classical conditioning, we know that we can pair negative and positive experiences to outside things. So we want to tie in exercise to positive experiences, maybe connected with music, connected with feeling well and good, being happy. All those things are the things we want to use to make exercise a more positive experience. All right. So belief in one's capabilities to be physically active and to maintain healthy nutrition is key. So that's where we're going with self-efficacy. The belief that you can be successful, that this time you're going to be successful. Self-efficacy, again, is determined an outcome of behavioral change. If you believe, think of the little engine that could. If you believe that you can, you will. And if you don't, you won't. Okay. So it's the belief in that you have that you can be successful is going to be key. So if you believe you can succeed, you will. If you believe that you can, you won't. Very, very important with self-efficacy. Pre-contemplators and contemplators have a very low level of self-efficacy. Why? Because they have failed in the past, and that's informed their belief. They have tried it. They felt like they didn't succeed. No one likes to consistently fail over and over, so you just quit doing the thing. And so our goal is to get them to succeed this time, so that we can build some data points of success, tie that into emotional or physiological feelings of success and happiness, and then they're more likely to stay on. So as self-efficacy is improved, clients can progress through the stages of change. All right. So how do we assess self-efficacy? We can actually assess it, and we can use Likert scales to do so. We can tailor it however we want, and it's just to determine the degree to which an individual believes that they can do a certain thing. And so depending on what activities you have in mind, you can design it however you like. So if you know that you have free weights in your gym, and you have machines in your gym, and you have Zumba classes or step classes or yoga or whatever, you can build a Likert scale using that to ask your clients how they would rate themselves' ability to succeed in that activity. So it can be a written questionnaire. You can ask for it verbally. 1 to 5, I prefer 1 to 10, because if I do this over time, I can detect more changes. It has a middle number, which is neutral, which I like. So I like either 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, but 1 to 10 being my favorite, because I can really see changes over time. And the individual just needs to rank how they feel about their success. So again, assessing self-efficacy is an example. So now just do this exercise with me. Maybe get a piece of paper or just do it in your head. And you're going to rate your confidence or your belief that you could do this really well. So 0 being, oh gosh, don't even ask me. I cannot do that. It would be embarrassing. No way, no how. And 10 being, oh yeah. Oh gosh, I can't wait to show you. Let me show you. That's 10. Okay. Oh, watch this. Watch this. Okay. So let's see. First activity, running 3 miles. So if I ask you to go run 3 miles, where would you rate your confidence level of being able to do that? And somebody's watching, 0 or 10. Set a number to it. Okay, from 0 to 10. 10 being, oh yeah, watch me. 0 being, oh God, please don't look. Okay. Oh, lifting free weights. Same thing. Free weights. So again, from 0 to 10. Give yourself a number of confidence. Completing a 45-minute step class. So maybe you had all 10s and now you're like, oh no, my grandmother does that. I don't think I want to do that. My mom. Okay. So maybe your rating here is different. Okay. Step class, in a step with a step that you have music and you have to go up and down the step in some kind of coordination dance moves. Okay. Going to the gym, so it can be something like this. Going to the gym 3 times a week for a month. How confident are you that you can achieve that? Some folks in pre-contemplation will go, nope, can't do that. Even preparation folks may tell you, oh gosh, I wish I could get consistent with that. Okay, so next one, completing 40 push-ups in 60 seconds. Okay, so you can see that there, you can, the depending on what, let's say you decided that with your client after doing your fitness assessment, you were going to do this or that, and then you're going to try it out. But maybe before you try it out, you do this exercise with your clients. You say, hey, I'm thinking of running a mile, bench press, leg press, and then you ask them to rate things, and everything is zeros. You're going to have someone who's going to be very hesitant to try, very maybe anxious, fearful, scared. You don't want that. So you want to try to find some numbers that are in the maybe fours, maybe neutral would be great, maybe some neutrals, maybe some fours. But if you have all zeros, you need to go back to the drawing board and try again. Okay. So again, then maybe, so you have fours and fives, and then let's say you have one thing that's free weights, but it's something easier for them to do, like maybe bicep curls, right? And so they have a 4 to that. What will happen once they become successful with that free weight bicep curls, and they think they do it well, it'll transfer over. It'll generalize it over to other forms of free weights, maybe triceps, maybe shoulders, right? And then maybe you can move them over to bench press. You find that as they get more success in exercise in general, and when you do the same thing again in maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks, you get higher numbers. And so you see that the self-efficacy sort of generalize over to other physical activity things. And it's amazing to watch. So I love doing this. It's really, maybe because psychology was my undergrad, I find this fascinating to see how this generalization takes place. And as they achieve success, it just carries over to other tasks. So it's really cool to see. All right, so I suggest you do that. So just to remind you how to improve self-efficacy, again, keeping track of accomplishments all the time. This is why I like these things, although people accuse them of not being that accurate. It's not about the accuracy, it's about the, you're seeing the change over time, delta over time, and seeing what is happening. I was only doing, 10,000 in a week. Now I'm doing, so it's, even if the number is not accurate, doesn't matter. It's a psychological perception that you're actually doing more than you were before. So if it's not this, then a log, a notebook, or some other Excel spreadsheet, some way of tracking success and accomplishments is great. Observing, again, connecting to others, because we learn from watching others succeed. So role modeling is really important. Also, but when we teach, you want to demonstrate, have them do it, and then evaluate them. That also helps for learning. Using your coaching voice and encouragement, especially at the beginning of learning something new, and continuing to do that as individuals achieve success, and trying not to nag, but to be encouraging. And again, trying to pair in all of the benefits of exercise. I have not seen anyone ever tell me after a workout, after they did it, even if they didn't want to do it in the first place, when they're done, say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I have not had, maybe it happens. In my experience of years in the industry, I've not had anyone work out and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Because you always feel better psychologically. Perception is reality. So there you go. Listing performance accomplishments, just to give you an example, is about SMART goals. And so keep track of success. Remember, SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time goals. So you start with a short-term goal and you build up to a long-term goal, or backtrack. If your long-term goal is to run 3 miles and it's gonna, you want to do that in 6 months, and you want to sort of backtrack and see where you need to be now in order to get there. That works. Or you can do it the other way around. I can only do this much right now, and using frequency, intensity, time, and type, you increase that to get to the long-term goal. Maybe it takes you 6 months, maybe it takes you a year. So goals will have short-term and long-term goal expectations. And again, program your clients for success. Program your athletes for success. If you're going to be a physical therapist, program your patients for success. Right, so it is on us. If they achieve success, you're gonna have individuals that are motivated through the process of change. If they fail all the time, cannot do something all the time, they're not gonna want to do it. They're gonna give up and they're gonna stop. Okay, so program participants for success. Achieving success has more impact than anything else on raising a person's self-efficacy. We do the things that we are successful at. You're here finishing college because you have been successful at academics. This is why you're here. This is when you look at your audit, is design short-term goals to long-term goals of getting a degree. It works. Okay, SMART goals, specific. It's first S. Instead of saying, you know, I want to lose weight, you want specific things. I will drink water instead of soda for 1 month. I will train for 45 minutes, 3 to 4 days a week for the next month. So they have to be something you can, it's very specific, okay, very laid out, not anything subjective. If it cannot be measured, it's not specific enough. Measurable, okay? So the goal should be something that you can measure. Even cognitive, if it's a client doing it, they could, if they're going to do it, they could measure how many times they say negative things to themselves. I've done that with some clients that are constantly putting themselves down. But again, usually something you can observe and outside of an individual can count. Okay. Attainable. So if the goals are not realistic or attainable, it sets them up for failure. Right. So if we say I want to lose 100 pounds in 6 months, we already talked about how that's not attainable. Right. And so they're going to fail. And again, many times people think they have failed because goals were not realistic goals. They were goals set up to, they were lofty goals, but in the end, they were not SMART goals. And so when they did not achieve them, that counts as a failure in their head, that reduces self-efficacy, and then they're going to give up. So successful, reaching numerous short-term goals that require drastic reduction in food and very different diet choices ultimately result in failure. Or again, too many hours in the gym, too long, too intense, same issue. And they have to be things that they want to achieve. So if they're coming to you and this is a goal that their spouse wants them to do, their spouse wants them to get more fit, they're not committed to it, but they just want the person to love them more or like them more, that's not going to be helpful. That's not going to be successful. We have to find something that they want to achieve. And we always put a date on things, right? So we want to, for example, I'm sure you have a graduation date in mind, right? Could life happen? You have to make changes, sure, but there's a date in mind. And so you have to think about, by this date, I'm going to be here. And if you're not, you can plan and do it again, right? But that's really key. As far as observing through others, tie individuals to role models in their environments. Someone that has done what they have done, maybe someone that they can follow on social media. Be careful who that may be. Many people on social media are not realistic goals, but key them into someone that is like them who has achieved success, because we are reinforced by watching role models that are similar to us having sort of paved the way and showed us that it's possible. Really helps. He is like me. If he can do it, then I probably can. And he makes it look easy. So sure. Okay, persuasion, again, I'm not nagging, using continuous reinforcement and feedback from a respected individual such as yourself. You're doing great. Oh, but what about this? Oh, no, that's fine. That's expected. So continuous reinforcement and persuasion. I remember initially, they're going to need us all the time. Eventually, we want to wean ourselves away from them so they don't need us all the time. Maybe when they get to the maintenance stage, the only thing that they need for us is to be there when they show up. And they just pay us to be there. So, and every time they get into unrealistic expectations, catch it and bring them back to reality. Very important. Teach, yeah, so how to minimize procrastination. Oh, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do that tomorrow, not today. No, it should be something that is now. Be careful when they come into quick fixes. Make sure that the goals are things like no pain, no gain. If you have pain, you have an injury. So if you have pain, we need to listen and we need to stop. So identify any false beliefs or diet myths and exercise myths that many people have, and talk to them about it. All right. So other things, again, as I've mentioned with the watches, and they use classical conditioning or pairing. So you want to pair how you feel with your workouts, and as much as we can. A good time to do it is, you could even do it during. Look, so my heart rate is at this stage. What do I feel like? So they learn to connect the dots and how exercise makes you feel. and certainly how exercise makes you feel after. Encourage clients to do self-monitoring of the positive feelings that exercise induces. We know that. And so don't just let it go to waste. Key them into that. Maybe they can jot down how they feel after the workouts and keep note of that, because it makes it more present. So use the technology that we have to record positive emotions after exercise. Log workouts, log foods. If we're logging foods like we did for Choose My Plate, you don't have to use Choose My Plate, but you can use other means of doing it. Don't have to do it every day. It could be 3 days, just to get that feedback of what it's like to eat within the calories that you require, to get used to the amounts. That kind of feedback is what we call pairing. So do all that. Some clients, again, charting progress and set rewards. Maybe buying a new pair of sneakers when you get here, or a new workout outfit, or maybe a new outfit that you wanted to wear but you didn't think you could wear. Maybe a trip, somewhere, but make sure that they set up their goals with some kind of rewards or reinforcement. And if you are in an environment where they can make friends, tie them into people like themselves is so helpful. Making friends that'll keep you accountable, and then will be more likely to build the social support that they're going to need to continue on. So that's really important. So that's the basis of the trans-theoretical model. Again, remember the little pyramid if you tend to forget. The health belief model also comes from social psychology. We're going to talk about this one next, and it sort of seems to be related. But here we talk about when will someone, for example, that's in pre-contemplation, make the decision and make it a priority. The health belief model talks about that. They assume that people will engage in a given behavior when they perceive they're at a threat of disease, or perceive that a certain disease is a threat. They believe that they are susceptible, so that they could get it, and that is severe enough. For example, let's go with smoking. So you believe that lung cancer is severe, and that can happen with smoking. You are a smoker, and so you believe that you could be susceptible to lung disease because you're a smoker, and you believe that lung cancer is horrible. Like if someone says, "Oh, you have to die of something," die of lung cancer. They obviously have not seen someone die of lung cancer, where you are sucking for air, where you can barely walk, where you might be assisted with your breathing in a machine. And so maybe they're not certain. So they have to believe it's severe. And sometimes that severe could be chronic disability, or it could be death. And so this is when someone will decide to make a change. So maybe something could happen. They come to see you. Well, my brother, who's just 2 years older than me, just heart attack. His body is about the same weight and everything else. And so they know that a heart attack is serious and severe. They believe that because they're similar to their brother, they're susceptible, and they believe that a heart attack can kill you. And so now they made the decision to. They were in pre-contemplation, but now, light bulb moment went off, and like, oh, shoot, I better do something. So taking action depends on whether the benefits here outweigh the barriers. So someone that's going to go ahead and get started, again, still, they may believe that starting exercise is just so overwhelming. There's just so many things you got to do and so much time. So our goal here is to break it down for them. Again, skill progression assignment that we did. Break it down to levels. Okay, we're going to start here. And I like levels because I think people can see that the progression. Level 1 is we're just going to do 10 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week. And then we're going to work up to 15 minutes. And then so you can let them know what the different levels are going to look like and get them started with that. We still, because it's social, there's a health belief model as part of social psychology, social cognitive psychology, self-efficacy is still a major component. So we still want to program our clients for success. We still need SMART goals to be part of the process of doing this. So here's a model showing you how the health belief model works. Still self-efficacy is built in. Again, they don't need to perceive that they're susceptible to the problem. They need to perceive that it's a serious problem. they need to, for example, heart attack's pretty serious a heart attack. And then they need to understand that if they take action, that's going to benefit them. So they begin to exercise and lose weight, they're going to reduce their blood pressure, reduce body weight, and in essence, reduce the risk of getting a heart attack. And so, taking action is going to be less risky than not. Okay. And again, self-efficacy is key to that. So if benefits outweigh the costs, then that individual is more likely to participate in the health action, right? So that's what the health belief model suggests. Okay, so it's kind of similar to trans-theoretical, but here is just that light bulb moment that happens. And again, this also applies to other health decisions that somebody might make, like quit smoking, right? Or taking medications that a doctor prescribes, for example. This is where this model came from. The health industry wanted to find out why some people go see a doctor and the doctor prescribes treatment and they don't do any of it. Or they don't seek medical care or health care at all, right? So what are the reasons? And so this model helps us to explain what it takes, okay? Lastly, the social ecological model, you will watch, or you maybe already watched the film Killer at Large. So the social ecological model looks at a particular problem and all of the different factors that are outside of the individual that may affect or influence that behavior. So it looks at involves different layers, intra-layers, and interpersonal factors as well. So it's not, when we look at something like obesity, physical inactivity, sedentary behavior, I mean, people in general tend to blame the individual. That is their fault. It's something just within them. If they just change themselves, then they could do something. So it's about them. They're lazy, they're unmotivated. When in reality, we know that we are social beings, that we're influenced by the environment around, the people around us, our family and friends, our institutions, our neighborhoods where we live, the laws where we live, so the policies, everything that affects us, we are influenced by that. And so that has an effect on whether or not we engage in certain kinds of behaviors. And so that's what the social ecological model examines. So each layer has a resulting impact on the next layer, right? And again, as social beings, influenced by the environment that humans are, we are affected. So we are not in this island by ourselves. All of us affect each other. And so that's key. Focuses on assumptions that related to influences of the physical and social environments that are influencing each other. There's many dimensions, and there are interactions between individuals, families, and communities, and how individuals influence their surroundings. Again, so yeah, you can think about a virus and how, as much as we like to contain it to ourselves, as soon as we're exposed to others, it infects other people. Same does behaviors and actions. It influences others' behaviors and actions as well. So the SEM model, and we use it here for physical activity, but it can be used for any other type of behaviors or activities in an environment. You can see that physical activity behavior is affected by the following factors: personal, social, institutional, community, public policy, and for change to happen, all have to be considered. So Killer at Large film, again, used this model as it's a classic film that did a great job of taking social ecological model and really looking at all of the different factors in our society in the United States and how it impacts individuals, and how making some public policy changes, like now we're going to remove food advertising from kids programming, or we're not going to advertise for cigarettes anymore in magazines like they used to when I was younger, or we're going to have a policy of no child left behind, or we're going to have a Move America policies, whatever. So those policies affect individual behavior. So again, yes, personal factors are part of it, but there's also what is affecting the individual. So the individual affects the world around them, but the world around them also affects the individual. And so that's really, really key to understanding how behavior is affected. All right, let me stop share. So that was the last of behavior change. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And that's it. Have a great rest of your day or evening.